I'm currently recovering from a stress fracture and severe bursitis in my left hip, which means that I can't run, lift with my lower body, or cycle outside yet. However, when dealing with injury, I think it's really important to focus on what you can do rather than what you can't. So with professional guidance from my physio and an orthopedic consultant, I can currently focus on upper body lifting, swimming, and cycling indoors. So in today's video, let's hit some cautious baseline testing ahead of returning to some structured training in those three areas amidst my recovery here. Then I'll break down exactly what that structure looks like for the next 4 to 6 weeks. Okay, so first up this week is a bench press, and the aim for today is to work up to a heavy single so that I can establish some percentages and parameters to work from in my training moving forwards. I recently hit 147.5 kilos right here, and it moved pretty well, but I then failed 150 kilos and I failed 150 kilos again since, so I'm hoping that today, third time is the charm. Although I haven't peaked for this, nor am I particularly well rested, as I had quite a meaty upper body session on Thursday last week and today is Monday, but we will see what happens. So, let's begin. Let's quickly focus on a lesson that I have taken from my days as a powerlifter, which is how to effectively warm up for a heavy single on squat, bench, or deadlift. A warm up for a strength outcome is designed to get you firing on all cylinders with as little energy demand as possible. So whilst I'd normally work in strict percentages, I'm gonna be a bit of a bro and work in plates on the bar and give you the rough percentages that align with that. So I'm gonna start with 12 reps at 20 kilos, just the barbell. I'm then gonna hit 5 reps at one plate, 60 kilos, which is roughly 40% of my 1RM. I'm then gonna hit 3 reps at 80 kilos, which is roughly 55% of my 1RM. 1 rep at 2 plates, 100 kilos, roughly 70%. 1 rep at 120, roughly 80%. 1 rep at 135, which is roughly 90%. And then I'm gonna see where I go from there depending on how that moves, 100% or higher. Okay, so a little bit of a misgroove on 135, but all things considered, it moved quickly, which is what I'm aiming for. And quickly is the key word there, because when warming up, I think some of us have a bit of a tendency to sandbag our warm-ups rather than treat it as if it was heavy, because you're priming yourself to lift heavy. So you want to make sure that you're primed to do exactly that. So with your warm-ups, whilst the weight might be lighter, you want to go through your whole setup process, all your mental cues, and really treat it as if it is your top set weight, moving it quickly, and the bar is going to get slower as the weight gets heavier, but really your setup, your mental process, and your execution should be the same. This may or may not move, and if it doesn't, I'll just take 147.5 kilos from a few weeks ago as my current training max. So let's see what happens. Keep on the t-shirt there. Cheers. 3, 2, 1. Oh my goodness. I think my arse came up. Well, isn't that a pleasant outcome? 150 kilos moved, which is actually an all-time hybrid training PB. My all-time best as a powerlifter was 160 kilos for 2 in the gym, 160 kilos for 1 in a competition. But that is, as a hybrid athlete, my best ever bench, which is very exciting. I'm not absolutely ecstatic because standards, my glutes did come up about that much off the bench, which means that technically, I mean, no, this isn't a competition powerlifting setting and I didn't pause it anyway, but if my arse comes up, I view that as a sort of asterisked rep rather than a clean rep, so to speak. But 150 kilos moved, good start to the week. But next up is an FTP test. This is fantastic, everyone. I'm feeling really, really good today. And what's interesting is just how much of a difference a reduced overall training volume, especially from an endurance conflict, has made. I'm kind of in a little bit of disbelief at how good my bench has been feeling recently. I was training it very aggressively alongside my marathon prep with the aim of doing a 3-plate bench. I sub 3 marathon in the same day, which obviously didn't quite go the way that I hoped. But I'm really, really happy with how the bench training has translated. But it's amazing how much better and smoother it's felt once all that running volume's dropped off. So hugely important concept in hybrid training is fatigue masks fitness. You might engage in a training block where your running triathlon volume goes up, your lifting volume goes up, and you might feel that you're getting weaker. You might feel that your FTP is going down. You might feel like you're getting less progression than you thought you might, but whilst you might feel that way, the reality is in the background, you're building that adaptability that will reveal itself once you taper, once you let that fatigue settle, once you deload. And for me, I'm really, really feeling that today with a massive reduction in endurance volume and a focus on strength training. There's a lot of strength in the background that's sitting there really nicely. So fatigue, mask, fitness. If you're into hybrid training, don't ever lose sight of that, because that can be one of the biggest things that stop people from committing to their strength goals alongside their endurance goals, is the incorrect perception that you're getting weaker as your endurance volume progresses, which may well not be the case. Hello, baseline test number 2, a cautious FTP test. And I say cautious because essentially I'm still early stages of recovery. So putting a lot of intensity through this leg is something that I want to make sure doesn't aggravate or set me back. So permission from physio and orthopedic consultant is I can go hell for leather on this FTP test unless there is any pushback or pain at all that develops in my hip, in which case call it there, and I've got some training parameters to work within from there. Another key consideration is I'm doing this on my tri-bike rather than my road bike because this has shorter cranks on it. I have quite short femurs and quite short legs relative to my 181 centimeters of height. I'm on 155s on this tri-bike and 165s on my road bike, but I think the fact that this has a shorter set of cranks means that because I'm not bringing my knee up as high, there's not as much hip flexor activation and therefore my hip isn't getting aggravated. So fingers crossed I can get through this FTP test without any pain, but at the moment essentially that's the brief, is work and develop what I can unless it gives me any pain, in which case definitely avoid that and don't aggravate the injury site. FTP is your functional threshold power and is an estimate of your maximum output for 1 hour. I'm doing a ramp test on Training Peaks Virtual today, which means that essentially once I've done a 10-minute warm-up, which I'm kicking off just now, I'm going to go into a sort of steady increase in wattage, which is going to give me an estimated FTP at the end. From here, I can establish some up-to-date cycling training zones and get to work in increasing my FTP over the next 4 to 6 weeks. Again, key caveat today is that I'm only going as far as any irritation in my hip allows. I'm not just burying myself for the sake of an FTP figure. This is very much a relative training metric that I'm wanting to establish so that I can continue to build from here. So without any further ado, let's begin. Legs have arrived, lungs aren't far behind. Always a chore, never a pleasure, this one. So as I got to about 340 watts or higher, definitely felt a bit more of a push through this left-hand side. So as soon as I started to feel that sort of ache spike, called it there. I didn't have much more in me though, to be honest. So whilst I called it a little bit early because of this, 260, probably a fair representation of where I am with cycling conditioning. It'll climb quickly, which is good, but reassuring to know that I can get up to about 330, 340 watts without any issue here. It means I can get a lot of quality work done. Baseline testing, part 2, complete. It's always so hard. I'd say I probably had 5% more in me. So I'm really glad I didn't find that last 5% because this is horrible.
Today is Thursday and I'm in the car park about to head into the pool for a CSS test. This test is looking to establish my critical swim speed, which I can use to set swimming training zones from. It is essentially a 400 meter time trial with 5 to 8 minutes rest into a 200 meter time trial. And this should give you an estimate in terms of average pacing for what you'd be able to do for a best effort 1500 meters. And from here, we can establish some training zones. So let's head into the pool, see how I get on, and talk through it afterwards. Job done, and I'm quite pleased with the outcome. Panda eyes secured, and I've just realised I'm actually on my way back to the office to film a video in the studio, so I'm going to look like a bit of a mug with eyes like this. Anyway, pleased with the result of that. Data on the screen for you just here. That is not inclusive of warm-up and cool-down, which I track separately. My 400 metre time was 6:38, which came in at 1:39 per 100. My 200 metre time was 3:08, which came in at 1:34 per 100, which gives me a CSS calculation, according to the calculators online, of 1:45 per 100 metres in terms of pacing. So, on the screen for you so you can sort of really long in real time. Rating these 1 through 5 in terms of effort level, my swim speed training zones: level 1, easy, 201 to 217 per 100. 2, steady, 151 to 2 minutes. 3, moderately hard, 148 to 150. 4, hard, 142 to 147. 5, very hard, 135 to 141. So there we have it, my CSS pacing established, and I think it's probably worth recapping those 3 baseline tests from this week and helping you understand how I'm going to be using that information moving forward into my programming for the next 4 to 6 weeks. So let's head back to the office and talk through exactly that.
Okay, so quick recap. We have a 150 kilo bench press to establish training percentages from. We have a 260 watt FTP cautiously established on the turbo trainer, and we have a 145 CSS with the zones that I ran you through momentarily ago. So I've got the next 3 weeks mapped out in front of me on Training Peaks here, and as you can see, there's quite a lot going on, but please bear in mind that some of these sessions are short rehab sessions for my hip. And I'm going to start by just running through what those look like. So I've got some single leg mini squats, some single leg foam roller supported bridges, some side planks, some feet raised bicycle, some feet raised lower ab complex, and some Copenhagen planks, plus permission to use the hip thrust machine with a very, very strong emphasis on my butte, utilizing those glutes, which are quickly diminishing. So let's get those back, hey, so I can visit Miami and be the talk of the town. Leg extensions and leg curls I also have permission to do, as long as I don't lift and sort of let any of that weight go through my hip, which should be easily done as long as I just stay in a plantar position. So I've got that every second day, so 3 times a week as it stands for context. But what I'm going to do is talk you through upper body, starting with this Monday, which is bench press focused. Details are on the screen for you just here, and we're going to progress through this over the next couple of weeks. So consolidating heavy upper body with hard effort 100 meter harder effort swimming on the Monday. We've got hard effort turbo trainer work on TP Virtual on Tuesday with some rehab. I've then got moderate effort bench press variation, so I'm starting with dumbbell shoulder pressing for the next 3 weeks as my movement, and then moderate effort 200s in the pool. I've then got moderate effort time on the turbo on Thursday with some rehab. I've then got easy effort swimming on the Friday. I've then got easy effort upper body stuff on the Saturday, and then easy effort stuff on the Sunday on the bike. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of the information's all in front of you here, but this is going to be the split that I'm using over the next 3 to 6 weeks, depending on how my injury progresses. If I can add in a little bit more intensity, that'd be great. But as you can probably see, the only real intensity across the whole week is in the upper, the pool, and TP Virtual, but this is about 3 to 5 minute reps as a minimum, so the intensity isn't really high. It's very much more sort of tempo, sub-threshold level efforts. But real emphasis on just getting more time acquiring the skills again in terms of the pool and the bike, and getting comfortable building volume, working in a bit more bodyweight stuff here with push-up and pull-up complex as we move things forwards. A lot of arm work, but I actually have a very exciting series coming soon that's all based on arms, but it's more complex than that. That sounded very simple. You'll enjoy it. It's not just me training arms. That would be very boring. It'll all make sense soon. I probably should have just not said anything. So in terms of progressions, I'm working through linear periodization on my upper body for the most part. So bench week 1, 112.5 for 5x3, bench week 2, 120 by 4x3, bench week 3, 127.5 by 3x3, working up the way through that linear curve. Similarly, increasing the distance on my intense reps as we move things forwards in the pool, and spending a couple of weeks hitting the same sessions again on the bike just to really drill being back in the saddle. So nothing overly complex, but this is how things are looking over the next 3 weeks in terms of structure. Real focus on the rehab side of things. I will, where possible, do those sessions in one, just for the sake of not having 2 training sessions per day at the moment around time. But if I need to, that's absolutely no problem. I think the way I'll do things is upper body in the morning, I'll do my swim in the evening, I'll do my rehab first thing in the morning, and I'll do my Training Peaks in the evening, my Training Peaks Virtual in the evening. Wednesday, I will do my upper body in the morning and my swim in the evening. Thursday, I'll do turbo in the morning and rehab in the evening. Friday, I'll do the swim first thing and box it off. Saturday morning, I'll go to the gym and kind of not rush it, take my time. I've really been enjoying doing that recently, feeling like a teenager, stringer vest, jacked and tan mode, going in, pre-workout, taking my time, blasting my arms, good times. So I can probably do the upper body and the rehab in one session there without time constraint. And then Sunday, just get up and box off these longer zone 2 sessions to start with. I will be working up to 2.5 hours on the turbo pretty soon, which is unfortunate, but I'm looking to looking forward to building up my pool swimming volume again. So there we have it. That is essentially what my training split is looking like, what I've been testing for, and what the next 3 to 6 weeks are going to look like. I'm not planning too far into the future because I need to see how I respond to the additional upper body volume and how things feel in general, and ultimately how my injury starts to move in the right direction. I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on it, utilizing support of physio and orthopedic consultant, which means I'll be kept very much on the right path and making sure that there's as much effort into moving things forward as possible. But that is that. If you do have any questions, then please do drop them in the comments down below. Give the video a like whilst you are in the vicinity. Ding that little bell icon after you've hit subscribe, because you're going to do that right now, aren't you? Thank you very much. Cheers. So that is effectively that. Please do check out the links in the description down below whilst you are in the region, and goodbye. Goodbye.